topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Well, hello today. I'm glad that you're able to join me for the next edition of Next. Really, one of the reasons I started this show is everybody has a next. And it really started because I was looking at people a little older and maybe finishing their major career and thinking about what's next for me. And there's so many talented people out there. And there's so many people that have so much to offer life, society, beyond just saying, well, I made my major career and now I'm retired. I'm also finding out, and the show is going to expand to this as well, that there are a lot of people in their 50s that are in certain jobs and they feel stuck. And people need to think about what's next and get rid of the fear to execute and move forward with something next that may be more exciting, frightening, but something that builds them to their next level and carries them forward. And that goes for kids in school. I mentored students at the Cameron School of Business at UNCW, which is University of North Carolina, Wilmington. And they're thinking about next all the time and are unclear about it, which brings me to my next guest, Marc Papillon. Marc is who I met, it lives in my community, and who I met actually as a mentor at the Cameron School of Business. He is really a spectacular individual, and he's a perfect example who's someone who is next. And he has started the No Right to Fail book and series and educational program, which is a virtual hug for students and for self-empowerment. I really think it fits a lot for almost everybody somewhere in their life where they need a virtual hug. You know, Marc is such an interesting person because English is not his first language. He had to come here and learn English. He's a native French speaker. He was in sales for most of his career for Johnson & Johnson. And then he had a passion for helping others be successful. And you're going to hear that and see that in what he's done. He and I are both mentors, as I mentioned before, at the Cameron School of Business, which speaks a lot because you're giving back all the time. But then you put your heart and soul into this new project, No Right to Fail, as a virtual hug. So tell me about it. How'd you get started on it? Why did this become a passion for you, Marc?
Well, it starts slowly, and it starts with inspirations. You know, when I retired, I was very conscious that I should say my first retirement. When I retired early at 55, I was very conscious that I needed to do something bigger for the rest of my life. It wasn't just getting comfortable, although I could have, but that was not the intent. And I started reflecting on my career, but the one big insight that came up is I've been mentoring students and young executives for the past 20 years. And my wife one day said to me, Marc, every time you mentor somebody, they get a job. And
wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and it kind of stuck with me a little bit because I never saw at that time what I did as being extraordinary. I just saw it as being very intuitive. And you know, the intuition felt like this is the right thing to do. Nobody's really talking about it because we always kind of looked at shaking hands and soft skills as being something that everybody should do, everybody does. And then I suddenly realized that it wasn't like that.
No, you're right.
You know, and the other thing that kind of spurred me on is a big part of my life. People would tell me I was lucky, and I don't want I don't want to discount the fact that I was very fortunate in my life, but lucky did never resonated with me because lucky implied that I didn't have anything to do with the success.
Mm.
And I felt
I just want to interrupt you there for one quick second.
sure.
You know, luck is where opportunity meets preparation and somebody grabs it. So
Well, the book talks about
partly had
that.
to do with you. Yes, go ahead, Mark. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
and the book talks about that because we used to call the word luck. Now we call it unforeseen opportunities because we bring luck to ourselves if we do the right things, if we work hard, if we surround ourselves with people that are smarter than we are. And by the way, that was always my motto. Every time I hired somebody, I would tell them, "Look, I'm hiring you smart because you're a lot smarter than I am." Because I need a job done around here, and I can't do all these things because I don't have the qualification to do all these things.
Good statement.
Well, yeah,
I love that.
exactly. So that was the kind of the second inspiration. The third one is I was being recruited. I was trying to find my way into how I volunteer and give back to the community. And I was being recruited a lot by a lot of organizations. And by the way, most of those are very, very well-meaning organizations.
Mm-hmm.
But I've got a little stubborn edge to myself. And I
No.
don't exactly. And I don't want to be fully scripted. And the reason I didn't want to be fully scripted was not out of arrogance, is the fact that I felt I had a big message to send, and I did not want it to be diluted or derailed. And incidentally, as we talk about this today, I'm giving back, and the book and the program is free of charge, not because I'm a saint here, but because I didn't want to dilute my own voice by putting an agenda on it. And the minute, the minute you put a dollar or a price on something, you derail your agenda very quickly because people start to wonder why you're doing something.
Yeah, interesting.
So this is kind of where the background's inspired. It was the inspiration came, and then the mentoring of students is something very, very rewarding, and I'm owning my space, which is really, really an interesting place for me to be right now.
Yeah, it's taken off. So tell me about the book, No Right to Fail. What can people expect when they get the book and when they get the program? And how are you spreading? Well, let's make it two parts. Tell us about the book and the program, and then tell us about how you're spreading it, because I know it's taking off in certain places. So
yeah. Well, the whole thing about No Right to Fail is I call it a virtual hug for self-empowerment.
I love that.
And I think the first thing people will notice when they see the book, if I always tell people, look, I'm not trying to win a Nobel Peace Prize on it. I'm trying to communicate a message. So when you read it, I think people would be surprised to see how simple the language is in the book. And mainly that's the audience I'm trying to reach, right? I'm trying to reach a young audience of juniors and seniors in high school. And we'll talk about
we need simple too.
We need simple too. But I also have a collateral audience that's really rising fast about people needing a second chance. But what I like to say is I'm very proud to say that it's a big idea in simple language. It's not, voluminous with a lot of words, a lot of pages, a lot of chapters, but it's very much to the point. But I have a core belief, two core beliefs, right? One is that everybody can be successful. Everybody. I mean that. And nobody is born on the wrong side of the tracks. And the only reason some people are born on the wrong side of the tracks is sometimes there's no one there to tell them that they have it within themselves to get on the right side of the tracks.
Yeah, great point. Great insight.
And so that's where the virtual hug comes in, right? The virtual hug comes in giving a confidence to people that they don't have to be the next guy launching the NASA rocket. They just have to be themselves.
Yeah.
And if they adopt, I've got like 9 steps in this book, and I virtually would tell anyone that if they do those 9 steps, they will be at least middle class in this culture, or maybe even more. They'll be an entrepreneur.
Mm.
And it's not hard, but it is difficult because it doesn't imply lack of commitment. You have to work hard and you have to be committed to this.
Mm.
And easy, and I'm getting into tangents here, and I don't want to get ahead too much, but we live in a society of mirages today. And what I mean by mirages is we have technology at our fingertips. We can send 100 resumes, in a half hour. Well, and then I talk to students all the time, and they get upset when they don't get a reply. Well, they didn't put any more thought into it in pushing the send button than the people reading
Right.
the resumes.
Right.
So they
If they read their resumes.
they expect the person will reply when they're just pushing send on their end. In the old
Right.
days, we used to have to write a letter to each candidate.
Right. And you didn't have an AI thing that could do that for you.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, I tell the students, if they think they're smart with AI, I can sniff out an AI resume in 2 seconds.
Can you really? Interesting. Interesting. Wow. There's an article right there, Mark.
Yeah. Well, I always tell the students that what I want them to do in their letters and resumes, I don't want them to be grammatically or spelling incorrect, but I do want them to be a little quirky. And I don't mean quirky in a bad way, in a cute way, because all the AI bots out there are throwing out resumes that don't look authentic.
Yeah.
So if you put a little bit of authenticity of who you are in that writing, it kind of beats the algorithms a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's tough to do, I think, but that's a good point. So tell me, how did you write the book? Tell me about the book and how you wrote it, and sort of I expand a little bit more on the why behind it.
Yeah, well, the why is, as in my quest to want to give back, I was searching for my space, and
Yeah.
I'm going to say thank you, COVID. Probably one of the few people that's going to say thank you, COVID, for one thing here.
Yeah.
Is prior to COVID, I decided to pay back in my own county, and I worked probably 100 hours plus on this presentation. And I was starting to present it to schools and things around my own area of Brunswick County. And I was starting to get some traction, very small traction. And I have to say, candidly, it wasn't as good as it is today because I've had a lot of time to think about it, put the book together. Then COVID came and we all got locked out.
Yeah, right.
So now I'm sitting here with a presentation and I'm sitting here with a big idea and I have nowhere to go. I mean, I'm stuck in my house. And so I told my wife, I said, this is ridiculous. I've spent all this time. And one thing about me that people know about me is I'm a little bit restless and a little bit of perfectionist. It's like, I'm not going to sit here with this presentation. I said to my wife, this is a much bigger idea than just a local idea. It's a national idea.
Right.
So I'm going to write a book.
Agree.
So basically I've got 6 years into this book. Writing and rewriting, and the one thing I like to brag about is while it's free, it's been done with the same the same emphasis as if it was done to sell. I've hired a copyright attorney. I've hired a top website media design firm, social media firm. So I've got all the professional backup behind me. And I took 5 or 6 years to really put a product together that I could proudly sell nationally. And now I'm starting to have conversation around the country, and it's really, really rewarding because now I'm seeing the effort come through.
Yeah.
But I stuck with it.
It's an excellent piece of work. It's an excellent piece of work. I enjoyed reading through it, and I also would not sell it short from the point of view of I think it can help a lot of people, not just younger people, because I think, like I said, there's a lot of people looking for and needing, that inspiration and needing that virtual hug. Loneliness is a big factor in today's society, a big, big factor.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, I was just going to say, Marjan can only go so far.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I always tell people I'm a student every day, and I'm a
Yeah, I
student
love
even
that.
in this book. And part of what I'm learning right now is I had it to a target audience of young people, but I'm starting to get people from organizations of people that are underserved and need a second
Mm,
chance.
I loved that. Like, what kind of people that you're finding that need a second chance? I heard you say that, and I'm just loving that perspective.
Well, there's people out there that that are in their 30s that have made wrong choices in their life.
Mm,
They might have served a little time. They might have been to rehab. They might have and I never realized that initially, but they're coming out to me and saying this can be applicable. And what I'm realizing in those people is while they are in age, maybe 30, 35, they've
mhm.
lost 10 years of their lives in a
Right.
and now they're really back where somebody in college is at and trying to
Yeah.
figure out because many of them want to change their lives.
Right. Right.
And there's organizations out there that are really trying to give these people the tools. They're trying to create job opportunities,
Yeah.
but nobody's talking about the intuitive things that need to happen for people to be successful. And that's where I hope I can come in.
So have you done any talks with those individuals or with groups or with organizations that are trying to help those people? Because I do think that there's a huge population out there. Um,
Yes, in fact, I
and
have.
I think even beyond 35. There are a lot of people that are lost.
Well, that's true. I mean, I probably have to figure out how to reach out when I get to people that get to be my age. But maybe they could teach me a few things at that point. But
Yeah.
to answer your question, yes, I have. I have had conversations. I've had conversations around the country, mainly on the eastern part of the country right now, but it's spreading slowly. Organizations that deal with inmates coming out
Mm,
of jail, drug
right.
offenders and things like that. People that are really homeless and are being picked up by organizations to really, really hopefully change their lives. And
Yeah.
one thing you have to say when you get into these philanthropy things is that you know you their hope is always to change everyone. But here's the reality. The reality is you're gonna have a third of those people that are already there. They're already going to change their lives. But there's a whole middle, maybe 30, 40, 50%, whatever that number
It's
is.
huge. Yes.
They need that virtual hug.
Right. And the
And
inspiration.
once you give them that, they will thrive. And then you've got 20 to 30% of the people that, it's going to be difficult for them. And we
Mhm.
still want to reach them.
Mm.
So you take as big of a bite as you can, and then you reach as many people as you can possibly do and feel good about it.
Yeah. So who's reaching? I know that you have expanded your reach, and I know that you have said that a lot of other people are reaching. So who is reaching out to you now?
Well, it's a little bit of both. One is I've as a retired sales guy, I'm going to do a pretty good job applying with what I'm preaching out there. I'm
Yeah.
going out there and trying to drum the trees, but word of mouth is starting to be very important. I've had a phone call from Ohio the other day. Had
Great.
one from Raleigh. I've got contacts in California right now, and I hate to say this, but some of those are so easy to get. You just end up somewhere getting your car fixed, and you're talking to someone and you ask them where they're from and what they do. And many times you get a connection and all of a sudden you're on email. I have a publisher in Minneapolis that contacted me. They write children's book.
Oh, wow, very cool.
And there's a message there that they're trying to reach a whole audience in reaching children probably younger than my audience, but there's a
Hmm.
synergy here of ideas that we can share with each other.
Mm, right.
So where we can join forces perhaps in doing something bigger. So I have a philanthropist in the Midwest here. It's a very, very wealthy philanthropist who reached out to me, and she was having lunch with a friend of mine, and all of a sudden she said, wow, let me talk to him. So we're having a very productive conversation.
Great. So if somebody reaches out to you, what do they get? I know you have the book and you have, tell me about the package that you deliver to people and the role that you personally play with it.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the role is I'm new, and I'm a very small show, so I'm very nimble. So that makes it easy. But really, the whole program starts with the book, right? The book is the center of the activity. The book can survive on its own. Now, when you're dealing with schools, you have to offer more than just a book. So I've got a teaching guide, I've got a curriculum, I've got
that's great.
keynote presentations. So I can adjust it. If somebody just wants to give a passive, career day book, it's there. But the idea behind this really is to create a whole curriculum behind it, where there's a program, and each of the chapter can be a 40-minute session. So over 6 weeks, they can address this.
Right. Has UNCW picked it up as, something even for their students or for in their education department as they're teaching teachers?
Well, one of the things that's happening with teaching institutions and schools, and particularly high schools as well, is their lead time is longer. So yes, UNCW is looking at it, but it's a longer term thing because it's almost like a queue, right? And you've got a state with a lot of mandates and requirements that have to be fulfilled first. But I will tell you that I'm getting a very, very high level of interest. I've got a charter school I talk to. I have a college, a high school that they're a pre-college or whatever they call it, right? Pre-university high school. And those people are very interested.
Yeah. So Mark, tell me, what are the 3 to 5 messages that come out of this book and this program to people that you want people that you're trying to emphasize in this?
Well, the first message is simple, right? People have to, whenever I hear the word victim, I hear somebody putting a stop sign to their progress.
Oh, great point. Love that.
You gotta shed victimhood first and foremost. And it may be hard to do because we have a news cycle that doesn't report what happens on Main Street. It reports what happens nationally. Well, political change is a noble thing, but it takes decades. Personal change can occur immediately. So shedding the victimhood, and this is not a political message, right, left. It's for everybody.
It's a people message.
It's a people message. We all have to be leaders in our communities, and we cannot be victims. If we are a victim, we are, the word can't, I won't, that's the first message. The second message is every one of us, everybody, we have the tools to make good decisions. And we have the tools to forgive ourselves. And I
love that.
So nobody is lost, right? You're only lost in the future. You're not lost in the past. The past is a learning lesson. So when you move to the future, you take those lessons positively wherever your past was at. We all have things in our closet. I was bullied in school. I didn't speak English till I was 13 years old. We have those issues, but it doesn't matter. Let's move forward. And the third one is to stay committed and not acquire mentors. And mentors is everybody. Mentors is the guy in a grocery store. Next time you're in a grocery store and you're on your phone, you're losing an opportunity to engage somebody behind you that could give you a job.
That's very good. Very good.
Yeah, you got to be on the street somewhere and you see somebody on the corner of the street and they're smiling at you. Say, how are you today?
Yeah.
You don't know. You go buy something in a store. I was buying yogurt the other day with my wife. And of course, I'm trained to do this. Who are you? Where are you from? And they'll say, well, I'm from so-and-so. Well, geez, I have relatives over there.
Right. Find that connection. Find that connection.
And there's always there. It's always there.
You're right. You're right.
If you ask those two questions 50% of the time, you'll feel something.
Yeah.
And then you have to stay with it every day. I have a contract as part of the book. It's called a self-empowerment contract, where you could do it privately and not share with anybody. And that's okay. But I strongly suggest you do it with a witness, where you commit yourself to some tenets of what you'll do in your life to be successful. And that's the takeaways, really. It's to be self-empowered, stay with it. I have something called the success orbital model, which is kind of a circular model. It's called hard work, mentors, and unforeseen opportunities, quote unquote luck, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you get in on that wheel and you stay on that wheel, it'll accelerate on you.
Yeah, that's
You,
wonderful.
you can't work hard without mentors.
Yeah.
Let's talk about jobs. Whenever I see a valet in a hotel or I see somebody flipping burgers, I think highly of them. You know why? They're out there learning something and they're getting paid for it.
Right.
So
Right.
no job is too little.
Right.
I mean, if you start working in a restaurant, one day you could own a restaurant.
Right. That's a beautiful thought, really. I mean, because people, I don't know, have been acculturated or whatever to look down at sort of what quote unquote society calls menial jobs, and it's not at all. They're moving through things, they're learning things, and to talk to them and to learn about them is really a gift, Mark. That's a gift. Now, do you have a mentor now?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I have 3 or 4 mentors. I unfortunately at my age I lost a couple of them in the past 3-4 years. And one of them I had for over 40 years. Listen, mentors are not all there. I have mentors that are very educated, very smart. They've been through life, but I have mentors that were just people like you and me that have worked. One of my best mentor was a guy who had drove a truck all his life. He was 35 years older than me, and guess what? I would sit on his front porch for 2 hours.
Wow.
And what that man did for me, he gave me all the tools of self-confidence.
Yeah. I bet he had stories to beat the band.
Well, he had stories, and I was 20 years old at the time, and he'd say to me, he would talk like the street, right? Buddy, I'm so proud of you, buddy. He doesn't even know how powerful he was.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And he's a mentor. I have a lady out in Florida right now. I used to babysit her kids years ago, and we sat in her kitchen sometimes for nights at a time. She just turned 99 years old. I'm going to go visit her next week,
Wow, that's great.
That's great. And she still drives every day.
Whoa. Well, that's great too.
Yeah. And in my professional life, I have a bunch of mentors in between too. So yeah, I have a lot of mentors.
Yeah, very important. Very, very important. So one final word for people, Mark. How does somebody go about getting themselves a mentor, opening themselves up to mentors?
Well, first of all, there's 2 ways to do it, right? One is you have to be aware and always be. I call people, they are the main actor in the play of their lives.
Oh, I love that.
And what that means is if you went to a Shakespeare play and they showed up on stage in jeans, they wouldn't look too authentic, right?
Right.
So you have to project yourself to who you want to be. And everybody can be a mentor. You just have to seek them out. And then sometimes you do it formally. You'll go on LinkedIn, for example, and you'll see someone on your profile, or you reached out to a friend of your dad or a friend of your mom or a friend of yours. They own a company. Why not invite them and say, hey, I'd like to buy you coffee. I'd like to pick your brain for a half hour.
Nice.
So the word mentor sounds complicated, but they're all around us.
Yeah, they are all around us. That's really.
I mean, you're a mentor. I listen to you.
Well, I don't know that I'd always listen to me, to tell you the truth, but yes, I have been a mentor, and I've developed mentor programs for lots of big companies and lots of big CEOs and stuff, and it makes a difference. There is no 2 ways about it. So, Mark, how, if people listening to this show, how do they get a hold of you? How do they get your materials? How do they get you? Because I think you're kind of the excitement around this program. How do they get you to come and participate in their school district or with students or with college students? How do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, I have no lack of energy. I always tell people I get paid by adding value and having fun. So there's no lack of energy there. But to answer your question, is they can reach out to me on my website. It's www.norighttofail.com. And if they just contact me on there, I assure them they will get a personal reply from me.
Excellent.
And then what I do, because the material is free, it's also limited because I want to protect the property and intellectual property on there.
Right.
I want to protect the material to make sure that it goes to the right people. So if they just go on the website, They can get all the material free. All they have to do is just contact me or sign up as a subscriber. I don't sell the information. I don't give it away to anybody. The ebook is free, and they'll have it almost instantly if they reach out to me.
Wow, that's great. So it's www.norighttofail.com.
Yeah, and I also have an email address, which is norighttofail@gmail.com.
At gmail.com. Mark, thank you. I mean, you are an inspiration. We have been neighbors and we're on the Cameron Business School mentor program together. I think we're going up to something on March 10th up there with a bunch of students. So thank you so much for coming on the show, and I really appreciate it, and good luck.
Thank you
And
so much for having me.
one final little piece about Mark. He is a world traveler, as I love to travel too. So we can have conversations for hours on really great places that we've been in the world. It's a nice and refreshing thing. So thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay. Bye, everybody. See you next week, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, and look forward to you tuning in to the next chapter of Next. Bye.